You're listening to Brunch with me, Noreen Mir, on this Thursday morning. Now, in the next 15 minutes or so, we're going to be exploring the transitions that shape our lives. And today we're diving into the topic that many face, but only few discuss openly, empty nest syndrome. Now, this phenomenon affects parents, especially when they leave their home for college or start their new lives. And so this morning we'll be exploring some of the impacts for both men and women, and also its effects on mental health, and also perhaps some strategies on coping. And to talk about this, I'm really delighted to be chatting once again with clinical psychologist Dr. Quratulain Zaidi from MindNLife Psychology. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us once again, Dr. Zaidi.
Morning, Noreen, for having me. And it's such an important topic, certainly currently in my life. So, yeah. It's a good one.
Thank you so much. You know, oftentimes when we discuss topics, I feel like I've got a bit of a telescope looking in, I don't know if telescope looks into the future, but a crystal ball or whatever it is, to look into some of the life stages that perhaps you're going through. And then, but having said that, you know, no one really knows what people are going through until they go through it themselves. And even then, everybody's experiences will be different. So I'll keep your comments today close to my heart for one day, hopefully, because it's a good thing to have our children launch. First of all, for some of our listeners who may not be so familiar with this concept, how would you explain empty nest syndrome?
So it's not a diagnosis that we have in DSM-5, which is our clinical Bible that we look at for all the diagnostic criteria. But it is an emotional phase where children leave home, and the experience of the parents, which can be grief, loneliness, and it is a sense of loss of purpose as well, because you've been a caregiver for this person for the past 18 years or so. Most kids go to university, and that's the kind of age, 17, 18, that they leave home. And if you're lucky enough to have them for another year for, if they take a gap year, exactly, right, then you have them for 18 or 19 years. And it is a big transition, because it is a transition to them going out in the world, experiencing a very different phase of their life and becoming an adult. So this is, a phase where they have the support, financial support, and, a lot of other support. It doesn't matter where they are in the world, but it is, they're having a go and stepping slowly into being adult. They're adulting a little bit in this as well. So it's a big transition for families to go through. For me, certainly, my youngest has just left. And it feels like, and I was banned from saying this by both of them, the 25-year-old and the 18, but it does feel like I've left my heart and soul in London and my body is back in Hong Kong. It's a challenging one, certainly for me, but it doesn't have to be for everybody as well. And, they're like, I'm not sure, this is a good thing to say, but it's the truth. That's how I'm feeling. However, on the other hand, my husband has very different look at it.
Freedom!
He's got a different look at it. Yeah, he's like, yay! I don't have to be the driver on the Saturdays. I can have my Saturdays for myself, right? I can do what I want to, and I'm not limited by I have to pick up or drop off or, any of that. So, yeah. It's different. It is different within the same home, as you're seeing.
I'm so glad you raised that point, because my next question was, how does this syndrome, how does emptiness syndrome affect differently both genders? I'm sure in your practice you've spoken to men and women perhaps about this topic. What's your sort of observation? I mean, even within your own household, it's a very different reaction.
Yeah, exactly. It's quite it's different. And then, so look, for a lot of parents, even though they've prepared for it, it is a transition that, not having somebody in your home, and they're leaving, and how you cope with that. So one person can feel sad, upset, a sense of loss or grief. The other person, as I said, can be like, it's liberating for them. Now I can,
life
I don't
starts
have,
now.
exactly. It's a different phase. I don't have to be responsible consistently every day, 24/7. And then I can, do what I want with my time. So those are the two extremes in a way. But most people kind of come to it within a space of a couple of months. You begin to reconcile, where you're at, and the person who's feeling liberated also starts to miss them, which is what we're seeing, right? In truth. Okay.
And I've heard that within couples too, and similar dynamic. And, I hope our listeners forgive me for generalizing, but this was many of the scenarios. Fathers usually feel more at ease at first, and then later on, the emotions catches up with them. And all of a sudden, when the wife then feels more, oh yeah, this is liberating, I'll start scheduling different things. Then the husband starts to feel a bit like, oh, well, what do I do? Why aren't you hanging out with me? And then there's that push and pull even between the family.
Yeah. Exactly. So it is a transition. It's a big transition, right? And you go through different phases of it together, and then you learn to adapt to the new situation that is in your home. And then you learn, and this first term is a good one in the sense that because that, at Christmas, there is a long holiday and you will be seeing them. So, it's only you get through it week by week that you can't, this is how many weeks there are, and you're able to kind of cope with that. So it's all manageable as long as you're speaking to each other, you're staying in touch with your kids, that they're safe. That's the other part, right? That they're coping well, and especially if they're coping well, then it makes it much easier.
Yeah. What sorts of symptoms should parents be aware of, and how can it affect our mental health, especially in the early days?
It's a tough one, actually. It's a tough one for those who feel the grief, sense of loss, sense of purpose. And if that continues, it can unfortunately lead to depression. And being aware of that transition, because it doesn't happen overnight. It kind of creeps in. And yeah, it does creep in. And, if you're not enjoying the activities that you wanted to do, or you don't want to engage with your social circle, if you're not, having the same energy, enthusiasm, and you are constantly stuck in this grief and loss, then that's the time even before you get there, you have to seek help or start doing activities that you wanted to do, or you enjoy doing, not so much you wanted to do, but you used to enjoy doing, and create it's preparation for this phase for people who are prone to depression or have had, anxiety or depression, or have had those symptoms, or in their in life previously, or transitions have been difficult for them. It is important that they put in steps to prepare for this and manage it actively, so you don't get into the spiral of depression, because that can be quite challenging. Yeah.
How can their partner be supportive? I can imagine it would be a sort of difficult dynamic to navigate, because on one hand, if one person sort of feels like, well, you've got to come out of that shell, you've got to, for lack of a better word, snap out of it, but it's not something you can just snap out of, because like you said, it's a grief, it's a loss, it takes time to process, and it affects people differently. But I can imagine that if it's sort of consistently day in, day out, it's difficult to support, or how can, not just the partner, how can people around the parent that's deeply affected be more supportive? Just let them have the time. How can we coax them out to do activities?
If you can prepare for it, that's the best thing. If it catches you unaware, that you thought that it was going to be easier than you think, then the best thing the partners can do is not to just say snap out of it, because that's not going to be happening.
That's like the worst thing to say. Exactly.
It's just like,
you think I want to feel like this?
Right? Somebody having a panic attack and say, just calm down, come on, you can do this, right? So it's not invalid. I mean, just be a bit more empathetic and see if you can support them by encouraging them to join you, or create that space that you you are able to, and you're able to take them with you for a walk, to encourage them to go out and meet friends. If you have a close friend circle and and a supportive network, then being able to at least tell them I'm having a hard time, and being able to, if they are arranging activities, and friends do this, right? They'll make more of an effort. Certainly for me, I've been proactive, and my friends have been proactive. And yes, we know that you're going to go through this, therefore let's arrange a dinner or let's arrange a coffee. And, knowing that I will have more availability in the evenings, it's been helpful. So being proactive, and if you are stuck in that state, then I think behavioral activation is the first step to get out of depression, which is that you start putting in activities, even if you don't want to do them. You go ahead and do them if you can, and that makes you feel better. Surrounded by friends, reaching out to friends, and partners not dismissing the enormity of the sense of loss or grief, or what identity that your partner is going through. And having said that, recently I met two couples where the fathers have felt more of the sense of grief and loss more than the mothers. So in what I am seeing is generally it's more the mums that feel that way and the other partner, but I'm seeing the other way around as well.
Interesting you say that, Dr. Zaidi. A few years ago, we also talked about this topic on the Agenda Cafe with Karen, and we had mums and dads to talk about it. And it was really the dad who felt more at loss with their child going away, even though the father was busy. It was, their daughter leaving for college was really just on their mind, on his mind the whole time, worried about her safety, with the time difference, communication may not be as instant and so quick. So there is that sort of anxiousness, which brings me to the next question. How can maintaining communication with the children who sort of moved out help alleviate the feelings of loneliness, and how much communication is, I don't want to say too much, but in a way, does that then put the onus on the children to comfort the parents? How does it work?
Right. So I've got two very different children, right? So I've had to put in the strategies very differently. So I've been very lucky with the first. She's just a very good communicator, and is able to just text, and we know that she's okay. So we've never. But for the other one, I've literally had to
put an air tag in his shoe.
If I do not hear from you in the morning and at this time, right? No, it's I think it's knowing your child and then setting the expectations as to what is going to be comfortable for them and for you as well. Managing that most parents want to know that their child is safe and they're coping okay and they're eating okay, and that's just generally it. The
food and shelter bit. We just want to know you're okay.
Just the basics, right? Just the basics, really. And if you're able to speak to your children about, that's all we want to know, and if you're able to communicate that to us, then that will be helpful. And I think there is no such thing as too much communication in my book, certainly. There certainly is a lower limit as to, as a parent I'm talking about, that, that no communication is just never a good thing for my mental health, definitely. So, as a parent, but, just being able to find that good place, and it takes some time, a few weeks, and you're able to get to that place where, yes, we can do this. And as long as there is that consistency and that they're okay, most parents are okay with that, in my experience.
I love that. Yeah, setting the expectations of what's comfortable communication. And, we just want to know that the kids are safe. Finally, are there sort of any positive aspects of empty nest syndrome? I mean, that parents should consider when they're navigating through this transition?
100%. You don't have to buy 4 tickets for every holiday. It's cheaper when they're not here. You can think about going away.
Oh, yeah. Going on a holiday with your friends, with your partner, alone,
Exactly. Sorry. There are many, because look, it's a difficult transition. It is a transition. They're going to be going off and doing their own adult life, and you want to be part of that. However, the dynamics are changing, and just communicating about those changing dynamics, and then you being able to concentrate on all the things that you've wanted to do and didn't have time for. So being able to go out and meet your friends, in the evenings, being able to have that part of your life and creating that part of your life with your partner, with your friends, that is not totally, certainly for me, not being constantly available for my children.
Exactly.
Because that comes first.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zaidi, for joining us. And for our listeners, if you're navigating through this transition, you are not alone, and there are strategies in maintaining good mental health during this period. Thank you very much.